I'd like to call to order the July 14th meeting of the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District Board of Directors. And we will begin with a roll call because our quorums are crucial to our operation. And thank you all for being here in person. That makes it possible for us to meet. And we do have people attending online. Commissioner Thomas, our attorney, Mr. Lee Baker, is with us. We do have a member of the CAC in the audience. Okay.
Munson,
Here.
Thomas,
Here.
Hey, Tom, could you use a different microphone maybe? The other one, I don't know. That one doesn't seem to work very well.
Githens,
Here,
Hamilton,
Here.
Piedmont Smith, Jones, Swafford.
Here.
You have a quorum and 50% in the room.
Thank you. We will begin today with minutes from the Board of Directors joint meeting with the Citizens Advisory Committee. These are minutes from April 14th, 2022, and they are arriving so late to you all because we had to have multiple approvals from both the CAC and the board. Could we have a motion, please?
move to approve the Board of Directors and Citizen Advisory Committee joint meeting minutes of April 14th, 2022.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on these minutes? I see none. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Hamilton,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes,
Swafford,
I was absent and usually I abstained, but I read them, so yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Munson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next, we have for your information, Board of Directors meeting minutes from June 9th this year. And these are just included in your packet for everybody's information.
That is an action item for the Board of Directors minutes.
Oh, it wasn't the executive meeting minutes.
Normally, that's where we have executive committee meeting
I
minutes,
know.
but those didn't get done in time this
I-
go around.
I'm on autopilot.
Keeping you on your toes.
Forget that. This is the Board of Directors meeting minutes, June 9th, 2022. A motion, please?
I move approval of the Board of Directors minutes from June 9th, 2022.
Second.
Questions or comments on these minutes? I remember them now. Without that, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Thomas,
Yes.
Munson,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Swafford,
Yes.
Githens.
Yes,
Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll turn to our controllers report, and will Ms. Hudson join us virtually?
No, you're stuck with me today.
Oh, no. Mr. Director, please give us the controllers report.
Yeah, so on page 16 of your packet, you have the cash flow summary showing account balances as of June 30th. The operating budget, $2,766,849.39. The savings, $1,001,339.60. The debt fund, $185,886.99. Capital, $45,440.98. and the landfill post-closure fund, $734,770.15.
So thank you. Are there questions or comments? We'll move on then to payroll and claims. And this is different for us because we are now seeing a large number of claims before us at the meeting. And in the interim between meetings, we have relied on our staff to take care of most reviews. So your questions and comments are important at this point.
Yeah, and I and apologize. This I think for the first time that Ms. Hudson had put it together under this format, and it is slightly different, I believe, than Ms. Martin had done, but it is still the same information. We have pre-approved claims, both approved by the board chair and approved under the resolution 2022-02 of $175,515.62. Claims presented for approval today in the amount of $231,650.34. Would note that that includes the second of the semi-annual debt service payments of $154,585. So total payroll and claims for approval today of $407,165.96.
Questions or comments from board members? I see none. This is, please tell Ms. Hudson that everything went very smoothly then. Thank you. And we need a motion for approval.
We need a motion in a second, yes.
I didn't get that total that you gave to us. I'm sorry.
So the total again?
Yes, please.
$407,165.96.
I move approval of payroll and claims for $407,165.96.
second,
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. We have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions or comments? We'll have a roll call vote then.
Swafford,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Thomas,
yes,
Githens,
Yes.
Munson.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Now on to the big meat of this meeting, and that is the proposed budget for 2023, and we'll be hearing from our director, Mr. McGlasson. This is our annual endeavor to put together our operating budget, which is key. Our other two budgets for debt service and the cumulative capital fund are very straightforward and require little discussion or review, but the operating budget is all yours, Mr. McGlasson, to present the draft.
Okay. Yeah, a few caveats in this that we'll get into as we go through this. So there's been a lot of changes that have occurred in the past couple of weeks that have impacted our budget, and it's been through a number of iterations over the past 2 to 3 weeks. So I do hope that all board members did receive and review the revised meeting packet that was sent out Monday that did have a revised budget, which is the budget being presented today. So, well, I can't get, there we go. Okay, so for 2023, Now, again, we'll go through more category detail as we get through the presentation, but total projected revenues of $3,006,143, which is an increase of $178,034 from 2022. And total expenditures of $3,005,848, which is an increase of $179,289 from 2022. And again, we'll go through the detail of each of those categories as we get through the presentation. So, the tax revenues, pretty good growth here, all from DLGF information. They did provide a 5% growth quotient on the property taxes for 2023 that resulted in a $99,730 increase from 2022. The two excise tax lines, we had our meeting with our budget workshop with DLGF this morning, and the two amounts in there, the $148,034 for the vehicle license excise tax and the $8,970 for the commercial vehicle excise tax, were projected amounts provided last week by DLGF. This morning they had different figures, which were less. So have raised those questions with the DLGF rep. I'm working through those, and we'll see what response confirmation we get back from them. And obviously we'll work with the board to see what, if any, changes need to be made. Obviously, if the numbers presented today are the more accurate estimates, or the numbers that they're going to use for the budget purposes and Gateway, that will result in a deficit budget. The budget, as you'll see when we get to the end of the presentation, currently sits at about a $289 surplus. I think it is somewhere in that range. So another one of those last minute things that comes up, and we'll obviously work through that with DLGF, and do everything that we can to ensure that our budget is based on accurate revenue estimates for the tax lines.
Okay. I'd like to ask a question right now. Can you tell us the magnitude of the difference in the excise tax estimates from DLGF?
About $40,000.
40,000. Okay.
So then other revenue that's not subject to DLGF estimates. Pretty consistent on most of those. We are, the paint disposal fee, we are increasing. We're in essence doubling from 2,000 to 4,000, but we have, through 6 months of this year, we have already generated more than $2,000 of revenue from those paint disposal fees. We are decreasing the pay-per-use, the orange bag fee, based on what we did in total for 2021 and where we currently are this year. And the waste tire fee, again, that as we're all aware, that is a program that just got started. We're not real sure where that's going to wind up, so we're leaving that where it is. And then obviously, in the bottom line, that's going to be a wash, because whatever fees we get in are going to go toward the expense of moving those tires onto a processor. The host fee is where we see a pretty significant change, an increase of $50,000. That's based on where we are year to date. If you can look in I apologize, I've got my sheets all spread out, but the budget comparison sheet that is included in the packet, we were already at $164,000 of host fee revenue for this year. And then on top of that, next year, we obviously have the Rumpke facility slated to open next spring. They were able to provide some tonnage estimates of Monroe County generated waste they think is not currently going through the existing transfer station that would add to the host fee that is already being collected. So that's also in there as well. And assuming all the agreements get lined out and put into place, very comfortable with that $300,000 projection on a host fee revenue with the second facility open. Sale of recyclables, again, is zero. I would note, and I may not have quite phrased that reason correctly, but the current agreement that we have regarding recyclables and transportation, the initial term of that agreement is slated to expire on May the 1st. The agreement does call for an automatic renewal unless either party provides 120 days of written notice. So it would be up to the district. Republic would have the option to provide that notice as well. But it would be up to the district to assess the situation with the potential new facility opening up. And if it wants to continue under the terms of the existing contract and allow that to renew or opt out of that and go out for bid or proposal for the services of transportation and recyclable processing. But in any event, given where we currently are, did not feel that any change was appropriate on that projected revenue line. The sale of glass, we dropped down a little bit based on our current numbers on where we are. The metal recycling, another line, seeing a pretty significant jump from 40 to 60,000. Again, that's based on what we did last year and what we've done year to date this year. We're already at $40,000 of revenue off of metal recycling through 6 months of this year. So, and that's some of that's based on volume, some of that's based on the market for scrap metal right now. I'm sure that market is going to change some, but certainly don't see it falling significantly as we move into next year. Sale of batteries drops a little bit based on our current experience.
I think there's a slight typo in the last.
Did I miss?
Sale of batteries, it should be a decrease of $700, but I think it's also already taken into the total.
The 1,300 is the correct amount. It is a $700 decrease. I apologize, forgot to update that. So
We just want you to know we're paying attention. That's all.
I'm sorry.
We just want you to know we're paying attention. We're good.
Glad somebody is.
Definitely.
But that again, so that, but that I guess that is the extent of the project, the revenues that we do project and include into the budget for 2023. And as you mentioned before, it is $3,006,000 projected revenue. Okay, so now we get into some of the changes that are really impacting the budget, really impacting the district as it moves forward. As is noted in my the administration department report, and I believe I did provide notification to the board earlier this week or at the end of last week. Scott Morgan has elected to retire from the district due to his situation, and that's hard for us. He's been with the district for about 28 years. And in addition to the experience and the knowledge, we're losing a good employee, and for many of us, a good friend. But it is not something that was completely unexpected, and something that staff has been discussing the possibility of for some time. And before I get into the increases that are in here, would note that this budget does not include an assistant operations director position. Staff's plan proposal is Joey Long, who is our current assistant operations director and has been acting as the operations director for most of this year. We just to have him assume the operations director position on a regular full-time basis, eliminate that assistant operations director position, Mr. Long has indicated he's comfortable that he can manage it without an assistant operations director position. But what he needs to do to make that happen is to fill the currently vacant truck driver position. To allow him to shuffle some of the duties around at the South Walnut Center so that we can move forward without that position. And I guess I say that because I know when you look at the new positions indicated on that slide, the second outreach position is something that's been discussed at some of the CAC meetings and some of the executive committee meetings. And I know that there was discussion about using that vacant truck driver position, so the funds appropriated for that to possibly, bring that second outreach position on board this year using those funds. And unfortunately, that's not something that we'd be able to do if we eliminate that assistant operations director position, unless, of course, if the board were to feel that it was important enough to bring that position on as a position that's been discussed to focus more on the 5-year management plan goals and objectives and all the educational and outreach components associated with getting those goals and objectives accomplished. Then we have the reserves available. We could seek an additional appropriation to fund that position for the last part of the year if there's a desire to do that. But that's one of the other significant changes that became finalized, over the past couple of weeks. And I will actually, I'm meeting Saturday morning with Mr. Morgan and his representative, where we are going to finalize the retirement, the separation date from the district, and when that will all become formalized. So in addition to all of that, the budget does include an 8% wage increase for all positions. That's based on that CPI, Midwest CPI wage earner index that we've used every year to calculate those increases that from each month, 21 into 22, that has been over 8% each month this year. In fact, I put an updated version up there for you today where the June numbers became available, and it went over 9% in June. I think it's important for us, to take care of our staff, particularly in these difficult times. And some of the challenges that we're experiencing right now with our vacant controller position, it is a tough labor market. And I think it's important that we show our staff that we value their efforts and their dedication to the district, and try to compensate them as fairly as we can given the current economic environment. And in addition to the across the board 8% increase, we do also have 2 positions that we're giving a more significant increase to, the landfill and environmental compliance director and the environmental compliance inspector. And in looking at comparable positions throughout Monroe County government and the city of Bloomington's staffing, those wages are more in line with what comparable positions in the city and county government are making. And so we thought it was appropriate to try to bring them up to that level. And then the second new position that is included in this budget is a new laborer position that will split time between the landfill and compliance department and the household hazardous waste departments. I'm sure you've all have listened to Mr. Polson over the past few months and the numbers that he's thrown out, and how much of an increase that the compliance department is seeing with illegal dumping and those compliance cases. And in the household hazardous waste department, again, I think as a result of everything that's going on, a number of our vendors are putting more of the burden on us for preparing materials that we ship to them. things that they would normally take apart when it got to the processing facility, they want those apart before it gets shipped to them. So we're getting a little more labor intensive in our management of the materials and the items that we collect in that household hazardous waste department. So in talking with Mr. Paulson and Mr. Long, thought that they could justify adding a full-time position that would split its time between those two departments. And then, and in reality, it's probably not going to come out to 20 hours and 20 hours every week. The hours will fluctuate based on the needs within the departments. But certainly is enough work there to justify a full-time position. So before we get into the line by line numbers of the personnel services category, any questions on any of those changes? Yeah.
Mr. McGlasson, not having an assistant operations director, do you have someone on staff that you are giving the responsibility to act as assistant in the event that Mr. Long is unable to do something, to do his work for a week, for example, due to illness or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, and that's well, Mr. Long has indicated that he would look to Joe McNeil, our Green Business Network coordinator, to in essence, help him or fill in the event that he's unavailable for vacation, illness, or whatever.
Okay, thank you.
I think Ms. Thomas has her hand up.
I do. I just want to commend you for working so hard on pulling this together. I think that there's some good trade-offs and you've made some really smart decisions. I just don't see the need for a second outreach person, and especially if the revenue projections are off, I think that's where we need to make a cut. I'm always curious about how we track success. What do we set as goals for this position, and how do we know whether it's successful or not? Have we reviewed the contracts with Xfinity and all of the advertising dollars that we send there? I think there are too many questions about that position for me to say that I support adding it into this budget. But overall, it's really great to see the wage increase to match inflation. I appreciate that. And overall, I think you've done a great job of balancing all of these needs out with the demands of the jobs, the various positions. So good work on that. Thanks.
Mr. Hamilton?
First, I'm sorry, I haven't had a chance to go through this in much detail, but we're not voting on this budget today, right? Or are we
No, we're not voting to approve it. We're just
reviewing?
trying to
it?
get all our questions
Got it.
out there. And
Great,
okay.
thank you. And is it every year have we traditionally, I apologize, I don't remember this either, followed a CPI approach for the basic cost of living adjustment?
Yes, we've always used that same CPI index that you have in front of you. We do alternate between an across the board percent increase and a flat dollar amount increase every other year. This year we're due for a percentage. We did a flat dollar amount last year, but irregardless, the flat rate is based on applying the CPI to the median wage for all district employees, and then obviously the percent just goes across the board.
Thank you. And then may I ask one more?
Please.
And I have no reason to think either way on this, but in terms of adjusting particular jobs separately from that, more or less, these are both more, do you have a formal process that looks at all the jobs and that you determine two of them were appropriate for more. And I'm a little, I don't want to discuss individuals or whatever about it, but I just want to ask that question. And then in terms of new positions, I would share some of the questions. I think I'll just say, look, we have, we're going to have over $3 million a year, I think, on average in our balance. And that's 100% of our operating account, basically, which is a lot. And I think looking strategically at how we want to invest, of course, that's one-time money, but looking strategically how we want to invest going forward to maximize the benefit to our goals, reducing landfill, et cetera. I really, I guess I want to have a little more discussion just about that and potential investments in that with the budget. Not today, but maybe I can do that separately or whatever. But if you can respond to that other question, that'd be great. Thanks.
Well, I mean, with regard to, evaluating wages for any individual position and how they fall into an industry standard or something like that. I don't know that we have any formal written policy or process for doing that. I know that I do, as every year when we go through this budgeting process, we get into Gateway. We look at what the city's paying their employees, what the county's paying its employees, and try to draw comparisons position to position. And then also, unfortunately, a lot of it depends on what can the budget absorb. What can the budget absorb as far as, if we identify a position that does seem to be below below the wage scale that other entities are paying, we have to consider what the budget can absorb. And then, as I had indicated earlier, this year the budget was able to absorb these with the initial tax revenue projections we've got. We're going, after what we got today, have to sit down and recalculate some things. But I still think it's something that we'll be able to afford to do. And in addition to those two positions, as I mentioned earlier, with where things are right now, it's important for us. I think that it's important for us to show our staff that we value them, and we need to do what we can do to pay them accordingly and have them stick around and continue to work for us.
Ms. Githens?
Yes, I wish we all had a good crystal ball here. But if in looking at the data that you presented to us on the CPI between January and June of this year, that the increase there is close to 8.5% just from the data that's there, if my back of the napkin calculations are correct. And we also don't get to take into account very often the fact that cost of living in Monroe County is a lot higher than in other parts of not only the state, but the Midwest. And so I don't know how the others feel, but perhaps we could be looking at an 8.5% increase instead of 8. I don't know what that would do to the budget, but again, we don't have a crystal ball. There's talk that the Federal Reserve Bank might increase their lending rate, which would help to slow inflation, it's hoped, but I'd just like to throw that out there for consideration.
Thank you.
We can certainly look at, other percentages and above or below 8% and how those, apply to the budget. I would remind the board that, we also spent the past 3 years, we also spent the past 3 years bringing the bottom end of our wage scale up to $15 an hour. And this 8% increase will actually bring the bottom end up over $16 an hour. So, we've done a lot over the past few years, and I'm certainly not opposed. I mean, I'll go 10 to 15% if we can afford it. I think our employees are worth that, but we have to do what we're financially able to do and be fiscally responsible. And along those lines and in reference to the mayor's, reference to our reserves, I'm also very cognizant of the fact that, I don't know what's going to happen to the host fee in 2024. That is when the 30-year agreement, or I'm sorry, the 20-year agreement with Republic Services that contains that host fee it expires. There's certainly options to renew that, but with the second facility opening up, I'm not sure what's going to happen with that host fee. And that's, historically, that's been, $250,000 of revenue in our budget. Next year, we think it's going to be closer to 300,000, a little more than 300,000. But that potentially goes away in 2024. And that's something I'm very cognizant of.
Are there other questions? Well, let's move on to the next section, Mr. McGlasson.
Well, so when we can get into the numbers of at least all that, or what this budget is based on. Again, you see hourly wages go up by a little over 27,000 to 278,188. Hourly wages go up by a little over 64,000 to $636,044. And that, in addition to the 8% increase, does include those two new positions. Small drop in overtime based on our experience over the past few years. And then, the longevity is just some of the staffing changes result in a small decrease in that. And again, I just, not to harp on Mr. Morgan, but losing a 28-year employee does impact your longevity schedule. So, again, a lot of the FICA and the FICA is based on the wage increases. Unemployment drops pretty significantly, a little over half. That's based, our current unemployment rate is 0.5%. That's a pretty good rate. And what we've experienced in recent years allows us to do that. The health insurance, again, a significant increase. This is based solely on estimates from the benefit administrator. We are too far out from the renewal date for insurance companies to provide us any numbers. They're just steadfastly refusing to do it. But over the past couple of years, we have done a 13% increase. So based on our current enrollment in that 13%, 425,000 seemed an appropriate amount to budget. I will point out, as noted in the memo in the packet, we are in discussions with JA Benefits looking at other types of coverages that could potentially, decrease or reduce that premium increase, as well as, reduce the impact to employees on that premium. But some of those would include policies that have an HSA, a health savings account. But we're looking at a number of different options to, to try to mitigate that increase to the extent that we can. The wellness clinic, a small increase in that, and then retirements based solely on the proposed wages. Any other questions on the personnel services? Supplies. There are some significant, changes in there. Fuel, obviously, an increase. We all know where gas prices are right now, so we have to account for that, not knowing what's going to happen. The general operating comes down a significant amount. We have money appropriated this year for new signage that has not yet happened. We're trying to get through the rebranding process so that we know color schemes and logos to use on that signage, but we certainly do anticipate getting that done yet this year and getting those that signage taken care of as well. The road-based material, we went up a little bit in there. A couple of the rural sites, we think we're really going to need to do some work on those gravel lots next year. So we'll need stone and other material to do that. So there's a little increase in the minor tools and equipment. A lot of that is for, supplying the new positions with the materials that they need. We've also added I don't know if the board will recall, we did use a number of years ago, we did provide uniforms through a uniform service for employees. So that's not a new line. We just haven't budgeted it for a long time. We're not proposing to go back to a service, but we're proposing to just purchase shirts, work shirts that staff could use so they don't have to soil and destroy their own clothing while they're at work, messing with some of the materials that we're forced to handle doing the job. Again, that would probably be a recurring expense, not at that level, but we would obviously need to provide new employees with shirts and replace shirts periodically. But and looking at our current employee numbers and talking with some of the local vendors that produce shirts, the $2,000 should be able to supply our staff with an appropriate number of shirts to be worn at work, and also would allow everybody to look the same across all our facilities. Then the orange bags, obviously we all hopefully recall going through that bid process and the increase we got stuck with there. So it's based on our historical numbers, volumes that we've had to purchase. We're looking at about $95,000 to purchase orange bags next year. I would note that we did just make an order with them using the majority of which was paid for in 2021 funds. We don't have those on site yet. Those will be delivered in August or September. Staff is telling me that order should get us through April to May of next year. So we would hopefully be placing our next order with the vendor before their price increase takes effect. So that is the plan. We still have some legal money funded for outside counsel to help us navigate the host fee agreement with Rumpke. Again, that's probably not something that will be finalized until early next spring, closer to when they are ready to open that facility. It was a pretty good jump in the laboratory fees, and that's just unfortunately, that's just where we are, a factor of the economy. We have spoken with 2 or 3 different labs, including our current lab. And that's just where the pricing is for those services at this time. Excuse me. A little bit of a significant drop in the consultant fee. Again, we have money appropriated this year for consultants to help with the rebranding process. As I said, we hope to have that completed this year. $13,000 increase in other professional services. About 90% of that budget line is related to landfill expenses, and that's strictly a function of price increases from those contractors, the majority of which is probably related to their fuel costs. Then I would note under our medical services line, that decrease is related to we internally had a discussion that the appropriation that we pay for our AED leases at our facilities was originally put into that line. We're moving that to a machinery and equipment rental line, which is probably a more appropriate line to pay that out of. So the telephone is going up based on our current year's experience. It's not a significant increase, but freight and handling doubling. That's related to equipment that we rent and have to ship back to the rental company from when we do the groundwater sampling. Printing, media advertising coming down due to taking out the appropriations related to the rebranding to occur this year. We had a significant drop in legal advertising. we're already over $1,000 this year. I certainly hope that's not the case next year, but don't want to don't want to be caught without enough money. So we're anticipating a pretty good increase in our work comp insurance. I'm not based on some of our experience and the experience modifier that the companies use to generate those premiums. Liability comes down due primarily to the landfill pollution prevention policy. That's not due until 2024. So we're pulling that out of that premium line. I would note the landfill pollution prevention policy is $47,000. So not reducing it wholly by that amount. We do anticipate there will be some increases in some of the other policy premiums. And utilities, unfortunately, all going up. The natural gas being the significant one, but we've pretty much already spent this year's budget halfway through the year on gas, and it's the majority of it is the rates have gone up, or our usage has not increased significantly. Anticipate some additional needs from vehicle repair and maintenance, machinery and equipment repair and maintenance. The snow removal is that's kind of guesswork. They only had to come out once this past winter. We have no idea, but I know that we are expecting a wet fall. Anticipate that'll lead to a wet winter, which will require some snow work at the sites. We do have the contractual obligation to increase our Bethel Lane rent. And then there you can see the increase, the machinery and equipment rental, which is the AED lease funds being moved to that line. And then we do have a new line for banking fees. And this is related to we do have a monthly fee that we pay to the bank to be able to accept credit and debit cards at our household hazardous waste facility. And then in addition to that, there are some treasury management fees that we're paying under German American that I don't believe that we paid under Chase, but I think they're $40 a month. Certainly well more than offset by the interest that we're earning off of that money that we were not earning previously. Pretty good increase in leachate disposal. Again, that's, trying to project weather out for 12 to 18 months, but we want to be better safe than sorry on that. And I would I would note, if you look at the electronics disposal line that is in the comparison sheet that's in your packet, although we're not making any changes to that line, you might note that we've not expended any money out of that line yet this year. And that's on the vendor. They have not invoiced us yet. I think that we've made 2 shipments to them this year. So we're waiting for them to invoice us for those. So our numbers, our shipments are on par with what we've done historically, and so we're keeping that budget line the same. The hauling contracts, we brought it down a little bit. Again, that's part of that agreement that could be allowed to expire in May, but we also, based on our historical numbers, we're not hauling as frequently. Not a great reduction, but we're not hauling as frequently as we have been. We do have a small increase in the glass hauling. That is based on some current and last year and year-to-date numbers, but I would note The glass is currently hauled directly from our facilities to the processor in Indianapolis. And Rumpke has indicated that they want glass coming through their proposed facility. Our glass is not a material that's covered under any of our existing contracts. So, we would have the option to move that material over to the Rumpke facility when it opens, and that would greatly reduce the cost to haul that. There's also a revenue side of that to take into account as well. But again, the waste tire processing fee, you might note that it's $1,000 higher than the revenue we're projecting, but that is more to do with, we still anticipate having to collect illegally dumped tires and deal with those in addition to the ones that people bring to us to get properly managed. The capital outlays, again, we always leave the $10,000 other improvement appropriation for the landfill as a just in case. We this year we had money budgeted for a laptop for the controller, and next year if we are going to add the additional outreach position, we'll need to provide them a laptop as well. Prices have just gone up a little bit from when we last purchased one. So that is the operating budget, or at least where it sits now. Any comments, questions? Tom doesn't know what he's talking about. Ms. Thomas has her hand up.
Yeah, can I go ahead?
Yes.
Excellent. I actually have a question about where we're at with this year's budget. What you think where you think we're going to land in terms of what we budgeted for the current year, how it looks going into December of 2022. Do you think we'll have reversions? Do you think we're going to be close to where we're at now? How's it looking?
Just like as far as from the bottom line in total, I think that we'll have reversions, maybe not quite as much as we've done in previous years, but on par, close to what we've done in previous years.
Can you give us an approximate number?
I'm sorry, no, not off the top of my head. Okay. I haven't projected that out.
Okay, thank you.
So I know one significant reversion will be the purchase of a vehicle, because we were unable to find the kind of vehicle that we need for the available funds that we have. And that doesn't mean we don't need to replace a vehicle. We just are choosing not to do that next year. And we will kick that down the road.
Yes, yeah, and I think we discussed this a little bit at the executive committee meeting, and yeah, obviously we appropriated $20,000 for a vehicle purchase this year, and then vehicle prices went through the roof, and so elected not to do that this year. But it's not budgeted for next year. But we have reserves. We can seek an additional appropriation if we identify a need and identify a vehicle appropriate for us to purchase.
Other questions? So shall I ask for any comments from our public? We have one person present here, and is there anybody online?
I do not see any members of the public online.
Is there one? Okay.
Earlier there was
Nope.
one, but I can't see it on the screen.
No
now.
questions from the public.
Okay,
So this is a,
on to the debt. You do have, again, the debt service budget, it is what it is. It's based on the amortization table. This one, we actually had no discrepancies with DLGF on this morning for 2023. However, we did, in going through that, did note, I had probably an oversight on my part. I apologize. For some reason, for this year, we did not get our annual $400 agency fee that we annually pay the financial services group to manage that bond for us. So we will, before the end of the year, need to request an additional appropriation for that $400 from the county council. Otherwise, we will either be short on our payments or
we will.
over budget on our expenditures, so. But it's, the funds are there in the bank. We just need the appropriation to make everything balanced. Any questions on the debt fund, fund budget? And then, again, we have a cumulative capital fund. Talking with DLGF this morning, we'll redo this before the board votes on it. The interest is not significant enough from DLGF's perspective to try to estimate in the budgeting process. So we'll remove those, but again, not asking for any appropriations for 2023 out of that fund, and are not budgeting for any transfers into that fund from the operating fund. And I think that is what I have to present.
Well, before we wrap up with this, other questions or comments from the board? Well, let us move then to hear the CAC's report. Mr. Winiak.
Thank you very much. Afternoon, board members. Not quite as much to report this month as last. We just had our one regular CAC meeting and we approved the CAC's 2023 proposed budget request, which is the same as the preceding year. So nothing much to report there. And we did adopt a change to the attendance planning policy to deal with some of the low attendance and lack of quorum issues that we've been having so far, so that we will know if there will be sufficient members attending prior to the meeting. And then lastly, we had, as you are already aware, one of our members resign, Morning Wilder. So we are
Yes.
now at 11 members. And that is all.
That is short, but thank you very much.
Yes. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's begin now with department reports. And do we have staff online ready to report? Are you taking all of this today, Mr. McGlasson?
No.
No, there's Mr.
Mr.
Long.
Long and Mr. Paulson are here, and
Good.
more than excited. Who do you want to go in a regular order or?
Regular order
Okay.
is fine.
All right. Well, I can start with mine then. And again, I think we've already discussed the situation with Mr. Morgan. And unfortunate as that is, then again, we started taking debit and credit cards at the household hazardous waste facility on June the 17th. That's something that's been well received by the customers, and certainly in pretty much daily are running those now. And we're excited to be able to offer that to the community. We started taking waste tires on July the 1st. I was a little surprised we're not getting the volume in that I thought that we would be, but we are getting some, and we'll see how that goes. Um, I think of the vendors that I talked to, I think we talked before, I only really got adequate pricing from one to be able to present a fee resolution to you, but still in talks with a couple of other vendors that would be possible outlets for that. But regardless of which vendor we go with, I mean, they want 300 to 500 tires before they come collect. So it'll be some time before we send any tires off. We thought we had a good collaboration at the fair with Soil and Water and Stormwater Services. The combined booth that seemed to go really well and work well for all three entities. And be actually meeting with them tomorrow to review this year's fair and discuss plans to move forward with or without combined booths in future years. And we had our, I think we talked a couple of times, or I've mentioned a couple of times, we had our event with MC Iris to remove predominantly cattle repair, but invasive species. I unfortunately was out of town and not available to be there, but Ms. Pokral was there, so they got a lot of stuff done. Could have used some more volunteers, but we're still able to make a good dent in that. I think Mr. Long can probably attest to the amount of vegetation he had to move and load into boxes to get sent to the composting facility. But we are discussing with them potentially doing a second event because there's still enough there that we could do some more removal to help with that and get some more natives flourishing in that area. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
So I hope we have more volunteers next time. That's my comment. So are you done, Mr. McLaughlin?
I am done.
Okay. Then let us hear please from Mr. Long.
I'll start with the recycling and reuse. I've been talking to the staff every day that's out in the parking lots and the sites that's helping the public. And we have seen an increase in the number of businesses that's starting recycling programs that's coming down, bringing their own stuff with their own staff. We're certainly out there talking to them and offering, our green business network and how we can help them and what we can do for them and other ways to help them recycle. So it's a good thing that they're bringing their stuff down. Right now, unfortunately, for some of the businesses, it's not in the budget, but we hope next year that we can add on some of those and start getting more recycling from them guys instead of what they can just bring down in a carload. Our materials for the arts, Mary Hunter has been extremely busy. We've had Sherwood Oaks Christian Church been using the program every week this year. We've seen them every time she's open. They're there collecting stuff. They're doing a mission and it's sending stuff overseas to the Philippines. And to date, they have collected 16 boxes of stuff, 983 pounds of reusable items as far as books, clothes, cooking utensils that they have been able to send over to help from when they was hit by the typhoon. So that's another good thing that we've been able to do. And, they're great. They come in every day that we're open and we can help them. The hazardous materials, we've been in contact with our oil vendor, used oil, Crystal Clean. We've been negotiating with their service agreement. They was charging us $90 per stop per site to pick up our used oil. We got rid of that, so we don't pay nothing now, and they are going to start paying us 15 cents per gallon on used oil that we collect. And that's pretty much what I have. Any questions?
Mr.
I
McGlasson.
did, to add one thing, Mr. Long, referred to some of the things the Materials Arts facility is doing. I left up there for each of you copies of a couple of letters that she's received, thanking her for her efforts and her assistance. She gets more of those than I could ever tell you about, but that gives you an idea of some of the groups that she's working with and how appreciative they are of what she's able to do with them through that program.
That's so nice. We appreciate seeing the letters. And thank you to Shakur Karim. Thank you, Mr. Long.
Thank you.
So are we ready for?
Is it my turn?
Yes, our Zoom sort of disappeared, but we'll see you in a minute, I hope.
Okay.
There we go. Hello,
Hello. How are you guys today?
we're good.
Lee Paulson, Environmental Compliance Director, Landfill Director. June was a very busy month for us in regards to roadside cleanup things. Our weight and number of cleanups that we did was pretty high for any month that we've done or dealt with so far, but we got it. And also the other thing I wanted to highlight that I kind of highlighted on that a little bit is just we have some version of those invasive weeds back in the collection pond at the landfill. So Mary Beth and I tried to, without doing a full pond clean out kind of thing, we tried to just gear up and kind of spot clean with the help of Bynum Faneuil and their leachate truck to try to suck up the weeds and some sediment that's built up around the intake pipes and the effluent pipes that are, or discharge pipes that are going into the pond, to see if maybe that will help us out a little bit. We're also coming up with a plan to have our sediment traps within the leachate collection system cleaned more than once a year. So I'm working with Bynum Faneuil to try to get that done at least twice, maybe 3 times a year, based on how much sediment is getting in those traps. And I'm trying to explore adding sediment traps to see if maybe that helps with the amount of sediment that's going in the pond, which is therefore allowing these weeds and plants to have stuff to grow in. So working on it, but it's just, it's an unknown thing right now. We're one of the few entities that I'm aware of that deals with anything like this because of our unique situation with the type of pond that we have, with the type of facility that we do have. So we're trying it though. So we're gonna, hopefully this will have some positive effect on what happened and our time wasn't wasted. So, but other than that, things have been pretty normal, just busy.
Thank you. Do you want to tell us about environmental compliance?
Our compliance cases last month were up quite a bit. You look at that, I put the numbers in there. We collected almost 1,700 pounds of stuff off the side of the roads, which is a lot. I think we had, what, 26, a couple burns and a couple of those, a few more residential issues where, you know, Mary Beth is out working with that stuff. And you know, I was out on the side of the road a lot, cleaning up a lot of furnitures and mattresses, seems like. So, but we got it. Adopt a Road kind of took a dip last month. Well, and we kind of attributed to the weather. First part of the month was kind of cool and damp and kind of half rainy, and then the second half was like super hot. So, you know, plus that's that time where a lot of people are taking their vacations and volunteerism isn't high on a lot of people's lists right then. So, but we're working on it.
Good, thank you. How many of the illegal dumps might be plastic bags that have fallen off of somebody's truck?
There's a few of them. I mean, it's hard for me to, I don't remember every one that I went out, and I know Mary Beth does some too, and we're all kind of just taking it and running, but there's some, I mean, I don't quite see as much as we did a few months ago, but we still see some. So we're working with Mr. Baker, Lee Baker, in regards to handling those situations with the haulers, if it is coming off their trucks, and trying to at least explore different avenues than we've done before to try to, you know, once it goes on the hauler's truck, it's that hauler's responsibility to make sure it gets where it's being paid for to go. And if it comes off the side of the truck, then they need to be stopping and picking that stuff up. So, but we're working with him to try to come up with a better solution, I guess. But again, this is something that we've not done in the past. So it's kind of new territory, and we're just trying to figure it out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions for Mr. Paulson? Thank you, Mr. Paulson. We're
All right.
hoping for fewer illegal trash runs.
Yeah, that'd be nice, but job security, right?
Job security. No, we don't want you to have that kind of job security. We'll find something else for you to do.
Oh, there's plenty to do. I don't doubt that. So, but thank you.
Thanks. Mr. McGlasson,
Yes.
anything else from you?
Not at this time, I don't believe.
Okay. So board members. I'm not asking for public comment because we have none online, but I should ask for public comment from Mr. Winnie if he has a comment for us.
I do, thank you. I just wanted to say, echo a particular thanks to Executive Director Tom McGlasson for all of the work on the budget. It was very well prepared and very easy to follow. I'm sure it was not very easy to put together, so thank you. That's all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We're used to seeing well-prepared budgets, so we just count on it. So thank you from us as well.
Till DLGF changes the numbers on me. That's
Right. That's completely unfair. First they raise it and then they lower it.
Yeah.
No. It's two changes you had to make. Board members, do you have any comments you wish to make? Then this meeting will be adjourned, and thank you all for attending.